Okay, brilliant. Ryan Swift, Richard Black, thanks very much for joining us today. Yeah, another interview with two new players. The idea of this is to give the fans an idea and a face to a name, because we've had so many changes through the club recently. I know, Swift, you've played at Step 4 a little bit before, and Richard, we both played at UEA, sort of around Norfolk and that before. So we'll start off just with a bit of your footballing history. So, Rich, what brought you to this point?
Yeah, sure. So as a kid, I was at Derby County from like 8 till about 15. Left then to sort of play local football in Leicester, Step 5, Step 6, sort of youth teams, and a few appearances here and there, 16, 17. Then got to uni, came to UEA, played with Swifty, Mo, Henry for 3 years there. That was in Ancom Div 2 and 1. We won a few things there. It was a really good experience. And then as we left uni in 2019, went back to Leicester. There were 2 COVID seasons, and I ended up playing Step 6 last year, and then got the opportunity to come here this season.
Yeah. What did you study at university? And were you sports science or something?
I did business management at uni, yeah. So
perfect centre-off subject then.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was more football at uni, I think.
Yeah, okay, so you're based predominantly around the Midlands. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing a lot of like Norfolk-based players playing for us.
Yeah,
but you drive in from like Leicester way,
yeah,
don't
from
you?
Leicester, yeah. So the home games are the furthest for me. But because of the league we're in now, a lot of the games within an hour. The Birmingham ones aren't too far for me, and there's 5 or 6 games within 40 minutes. So yeah, it sort of makes up for it, some of the away games.
But you do have that Norfolk connection, because I sort of mentioned at the beginning, UEA. So
yeah.
Did you choose that as a university decision, or was there anything football-based in that?
I chose UEA as a university. I wasn't really sure of the football there, and sort of got lucky. When we first went, we sort of a good group of people there, and the uni invested in us. And we had some really successful seasons there and won a few trophies, and yeah, had a really good time.
And we were talking before, you were involved in the Senior Cup final that never was, weren't you?
Yeah. So that was, I think I graduated uni then, but I came back to play a few games here and there. And yeah, so I played the semi-final, and we would have played Dereham in the final, which was a shame we didn't get a chance to see how it went. Yeah,
it would have been. That was a shame, actually. We were looking forward to it, because UEA played their games here as well at the time, didn't they?
Yeah.
So because we couldn't use Carrow Road, it would have been an ideal opportunity to have used here, wouldn't it? It could have been a home fixture.
Yeah.
So you played Swifty in this league last year, didn't you?
Yeah, indeed. So
for Cambridge.
Last year's season I was at Cambridge City. Before that, like Rich was saying, I was at UEA between like sort of 2016, 2019, and like with Mo Hen, we had a really good team that all sort of joined at the same time. So we were quite lucky with like the team that we had at the time, that meant that we were quite sort of successful, winning Ancon Div 1, then the Mummery Cup, and getting promoted to the sort of Premier Division. It's just a shame that sort of once, as we were sort of on the upslope, as all the university like sort of cycles end, our team kind of, sort of dissipated a bit and sort of spread out. So since then, I mean, and a few of the fans won't be too happy about this, but I'm from Ipswich, just outside of Ipswich. So I then moved back there.
We're allowed overseas players.
Yeah. I played a little bit for Ipswich Wanderers, who are now in Fulham Prem. Okay. And then it wasn't particularly successful for a bit. Had a short spell at Dis, and then played at Harleston for like a whole season, and maybe some of the COVID season as well. Started sort of.
So how did you get from that to Cambridge City?
So
then?
That was kind of like, so Paul Neary, who's now behind the scenes here. So I got a job in Cambridge, and I was moving up there because it was too far to travel every day, but didn't have a club basically. And I was looking around. I'd never played Step 4 before, and I was just kind of hoping someone had a contact. Paul happened to know the manager of Cambridge City. And fair play to him, he was good enough to let me go along to training, played a few pre-season games at the start of last season, and obviously made a good enough impression that they then signed me from there. So for myself, it was quite a big jump up. I jumped from Step 7 to Step 4 overnight, basically. So it took a fair bit of getting used to, and probably until almost Christmas time to get up to speed, because as you've seen this year, this league it's physical, and the biggest thing about it is sort of fitness. And
was it the same last year as well?
Yeah, exactly the same last year. Like, a lot of the games are quite tight, and it can sort of, they're often close until sort of the last 5-10 minutes. So the fitter you are, you stay in the game and then sort of nick it from a set piece. But like you've got to be able to compete sort of physically there.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of the teams from around the Midlands, they are big, strong,
Yeah.
athletic,
Yeah.
and like if you can't match them, then no matter how good you are quality-wise, you often end up like losing a goal here
Losing
and
the
there,
battle, basically.
and losing
yeah.
the battle, and then
Yeah.
losing the game. So
Well, that sort of answers my next question. I was going to ask, you know, what the jump up to this league was like when you went to Cambridge. But so, Rich, how you were playing at UEA, which was, what step were they at last time? Was that step
That would have been
6?
No, it would have been lower than that when I was still there. But back in Leicester, I was played step 6 last year. So yeah, it's been 2
Who
steps.
Who were you playing
up.
for last year then?
St Andrews.
Oh, okay.
They're playing the United Counties League in the Midlands area. And yeah, I think I agree with Swift. I think the biggest difference is a lot more physical.
Yeah.
I think as you go up the steps, the ball just moves a bit faster. But I think especially in this league, it does seem every team is physical. The bit of fitness levels as well.
But the teams seem to look after each other, and you've explained that you knew Mo and Henry, and there'll be others, weren't there, that you would have known from the past as well. Is that something that you found really useful, like basically turning up into a group with your mates and everything?
Yeah, I think
it's made this transition easier?
Yeah, it's definitely helped. I think we sort of put together fairly last minute because of stuff out of everyone's control. But I think it helped having sort of us from UEA, then you had Swifties played with Billum before, and sort of Daz knows, John knows, there's a lot of connections in the team already. So even though it was put together, there were still those connections there which has helped a lot.
Because you both signed at different. We had the pre-season. It is what it is. What happened in pre-season and everything. Yeah. So you were signed by. Were you signed by Gus before everything changed? Were you? Or
yeah. So I
signed
when Gus was still here because of Gus knows people at Halston. So that was my connection to Dereham via that. And then, like Rich said, it all kind of changed. Everything changed, and it was a big sense of. Once sort of I was here and sort of Rich joined, we got a few of our UEA boys together, and like I said, we played together for 2-3 years already. So that was kind of, no matter we didn't know the team or anything else, we all knew how each other play. From that basis.
It was a good reason to want to stay after everything that happened.
Yeah,
you still
exactly.
Play with your mates.
It's all really nice to play with your mates, especially at this level. That chance to do that doesn't really happen ever. Exactly, to play with, I think there was. Is it 6 of us that all played together at uni? Yeah, because you add in Nathan and
Nathan,
all UEA as well. So to have that to come into was, no matter how sort of difficult the pre-season was, we were going into it with, well, at least we know how each other play. So now as time's gone on, and we learn about all the other players, as Rich said, John knows Gaz, so they know how each other play. But it's just then them knowing how we play, us knowing how them play. So as time goes on, you kind of gel a bit more and get used to each other, and then hopefully performance start improving. Like I was saying, I've said to Toasty before today, I think it took me until sort of December last year to get fully up to speed with the league. So for a lot of us, a lot of players, it's the first time they've played at Step 4 as well. So it's understandable that maybe it's difficult at the start, but as you get used to it and then you see kind of full performances, the best performances.
That unity is showing through. I mean, because to the outsiders looking in, it doesn't look like this is a group of people who haven't played much Step 4 football as a group before.
No, I think that is showing from our performances that sort of the effort has always kind of been there. We have got now a few late winners, especially like Sutton Coldfield the other night to get a winner in the last minute. And then I think from what it was at the start, I think we see stuff on social media, not a lot of fans were maybe not too happy with what happened, but at the end of the Sutton Coldfield game in a cold, wet junior Tuesday
You're being quite modest about that. There was a lot to do with you that game, wasn't it? We were expecting to have
team game,
phone call after that.
I'm a bit disappointed that I'm not on the plane, but to see there was 30-40 people all under the little stand under there, all sort of standing ovation for us to get a good result. It kind of shows how far we've come in just a short space of time. And so you joined the club slightly later, didn't you? So you sort of signed after everything had happened. So you had a shorter pre-season than Swifty would have had, wouldn't you?
So I was pretty set on just staying in Leicester and playing for the team I did last season. I saw Swifty joined here, and then I think it's like the week after we went on holiday together with some of the people from UEA and Paul Neary to Marbella, and Lee Perry as well. Went to Marbella to play against a few teams out there, and we sort of it was sort of a bit of a joke at the start, because the travelling was, it did seem like it would be too much, but then the more we spoke about it, and like I've mentioned, some of the away games are so close for me, it does make up for these home games.
You like elbows and persuasion.
Yeah. There's a bit of lift sharing going on as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so sort of after that sort of came, and I was here for 2 games with Gus, and then I sort of said I'd happy to join, and then what happened did, and then Toasty came in, and I still wanted to be a part of it, because obviously Swifty's mentioned it helps with some of the boys I know from uni, but then also the group we've got in there is something I want to be a part of. And it was a tough start. I think in that first Wroxham game, it was a bit of an unknown. We weren't sure how we were going to do, but I think 20 minutes in, we sort of looked around and went, we're going to be fine this season. And we could tell, even when that first goal went in, we could tell we're good enough, and we've got the group of, I think that's a credit to Toasty and Paul and Joey as well. But yeah, so it was a tough start, but I think as Swifty said, we're just going to get better and better from here on.
It was from that game, I mentioned it in the last interview with Chris and Joe, when Henry scored that goal and all our fans were shouting, oh, great goal, Gascoigne. Because we didn't know, we were as much in the dark about who you guys were as well. When we saw you'd signed from Cambridge, we thought, hang on, we had Cambridge in the league a while ago, but we don't recognise the name and this sort of thing. So it's excellent that we're getting to know you this way, so putting faces to names and everything. So, Richard, we know you're a centre-half. That's obviously your ideal position, but is there anywhere else you play if you had to?
No, I think I'm just centre-half now. No, I think I'm definitely just a centre-half now. I think I've been up top a couple of times right at the end, but I think centre-half is definitely my position. Yeah, I'm getting there. I think I missed a sitter. I can't remember if that was against now, but a couple of weeks ago, and I've hit the post, so yeah, it's coming. So hopefully today, yeah.
Well, I sponsor you, so that's a couple of pints I haven't had to buy you so far.
Yeah,
so.
True. Saving your money.
And Swifty, you've played mostly on the wing, haven't you, or on one side or the other of a three?
So I'd say probably my best position is off the left wing. I mean, I have been used up front as well this season. Usually better off in a two, in a sort of partnership. But I'd say my best position is probably off the left, being able to cut in, but I can go on the outside as well. Left foot's generally not too bad, which is always a sort of a bit of a threat. Defenders don't know which way you're going to go. But I mean, luckily I've always sort of had a bit of an eye for a goal as well. So even like when I'm out wide, I can come and sort of hopefully chip in with some goals throughout the season. Because
one of your major strengths we've seen is how you hold the ball up. When the ball, all too often, especially in non-league, not just at Dereham, the ball comes up from the goal kick or something, and then it's immediately turned over and goes back, and we put a lot of pressure on midfield that way and everything. But you've got quite a close control in your game, haven't you?
I mean, as a sort of traditional winger, I wouldn't say, if people were to guess, if you looked at me at the first game of the season when I joined and said, what position do you play? I don't think anyone would really guess a left winger, because I wouldn't say I suit the sort of stereotypical what a winger looks like. That does obviously bring benefits another way, but being able to hold it up in better positions out wide, bring other people into the game, and despite my size, like my sort of heading and sort of that kind of part of my game isn't the strongest, but the sort of close control, dribbling, being able to get in and out of the sort of tight situations.
And scoring welders from 40 yards.
Like I said, I'm not sure if I'll top that goal this season, but I mean, we can try.
The first one, the own goal, or the second one?
No. I've heard what Toasty said about some of my goals. It's ridiculous.
But like a big part of playing at this level is staying injury free. Obviously, you haven't had any trouble with injury this season, but is it something you suffered with in the past?
No, touch wood. So ongoing sort of like tendonitis in my knee, but it's now kind of know how to manage it a lot better, and it's nowhere near as bad as it was last season. But at the start of last season, I think because of the big jump up, and then we were training twice a week on 3G, and then the intensity of the games, I just wasn't used to it. So at the sort of start of last season, it was getting to a point where I could almost hardly bend my leg. If I wanted to bend my leg, I just had to pick it up and like bend it myself. And it was like sort of really sort of holding me back in terms of I could still play. I was always playing through sort of pain. And it kind of took you just don't get the rest. You know, there's games all the time. All the games are so intense, and then you're training. You just don't get the rest. So you just need a bit of time to sort of just sit, do nothing, and it kind of recovers. And I've now found some sort of exercises that I can use to strengthen it and sort of try and let the inflammation die down as much, so I can now sort of manage it much better. Like it generally sort of hurts a bit after a game, but now instead of it hurting all week and then for the next few days barely being able to sort of walk, now sort of the next day it'll hurt a little bit, and then it'll kind of gradually ease.
Well, like you say, there's modern treatments and practice now, and it's a lot easier now. So, Rich, we lost you for a couple of games to injury, didn't we?
Yeah, so I've missed a few games, unfortunately. So I had one right at the start of the season, a clash of heads. So I missed the Daventry game with, it wasn't concussion, but it was sort of just a precautionary because of the clash of heads. And then more recently, I missed 2 or 3 games. I sort of had a knock to the outside of my knee, and it's either stretched or bruised the ligaments on the inside of my knee. And I just couldn't really put any weight through it, or sprinting was really difficult, causing a lot of pain. So I sort of had a 2-3 week break, and touch wood, it's been fine now. It was sort of a bit of a concern, it wasn't getting any better, but then after about two and a half weeks, it's all been fine now. I've not felt it at all. It's
handy having 2 professionals in the squad as well, the Greenslade guys. They must be very helpful,
yeah,
aren't they?
Definitely.
Yeah, professionals in that area, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they do help. I know with Kai recently in his shoulder, they've both been helping him, like strapping up and giving him exercises. But yeah, it's another plus to having them involved.
Yeah, because these are things that people don't realise from the outside looking in. It's an extra strength to the squad, isn't it? Being able to be, you're almost quite self-sufficient as a tighter group, aren't you?
No, definitely.
As well. But so since you've joined Dereham Town, you've obviously played in different areas of the country. I know we've imported you from Suffolk, but we won't hold it against you. But what you finding the best thing about playing at Dereham Town is at the moment?
I think for me personally, it's to make step 4. It's something I wanted to do for a while, to make that step up. And then I think I've been quite lucky. It's been here at Dereham. We've got great facilities. We're training on a 4G now in the week. All the fans coming to watch, it does mean a lot. I know you've mentioned about that Tuesday night. It definitely helps a lot having that sort of core fan base. Sort of coming over to Birmingham on some of the Saturdays, it does mean a lot to us. And then also everyone behind the scenes, it seems a great club to be at, to make that step up. So I think really, and for myself, I feel like I got a bit lucky making that step up here, because it feels
like sort of meant to be.
Step yeah, definitely. Yeah. I felt like, even though I've only been here a few months, it feels like I've been here a long time. So
yeah, it's probably again going back to knowing a lot of players coming into it as well. You know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Is it the same for you, Swifty?
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's you can see clearly now, like the fans are all like really dedicated and passionate about the club. And it's like last Saturday, it was a tough away game at Hales Owen on a not a particularly nice day, in a sort of quite a intimidating atmosphere. But still, we sort of had a coach full of fans that were willing to spend their whole Saturday to come all the way up there and watch. I mean, admittedly, not a good enough performance from us, but that kind of, I guess it's good for the fans to see that's the levels that we're up against, and like that's what we can aspire to try and sort of get to with time. And then, as obviously you can see from being there, how much that atmosphere helped. Like the atmosphere was like really good to play in.
Was that like the biggest crowd either of you have played in front of before, or have you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Cambridge sort of got similar to what we get here now, sort of between like sort of 200-300, and as I say, and as our performances have picked up and sort of the fans have got on board with the team, attendances are sort of growing, and it does really help. So we do really appreciate it, and especially like getting to know, as the more you speak to them, you get to know. I feel like we try and be like an approachable like group to actually get to know.
Well, the fans have noticed that, definitely. You know, doing things like this. You know, coming up to us at the end of the game, celebrating with us when you score, stuff like that. You know, it's excellent, and you spend time in the bar. Because you are a nice group. We've noticed that you're a very approachable group and everything. Toasty encourages that as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from sort of Toasty and behind the scenes, that trying to get that togetherness and actually make sure you take the time to appreciate the fans. And it's a really good atmosphere. So yeah, it's a nice place.
And that's one of the major things that makes you want to stay at a club like
this.
Yeah. Rich
definitely
mentioned the facilities and everything.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the clubhouse is really nice. Being everything here is like self-sufficient. It's all Dereham Town, isn't it? Like it's not it's part owned here, part owned there. It's all Dereham. So yeah, it's a nice place to be. And obviously, the longer you're at a place, you get more involved with it, get used to it more, and get more of a part of the club, don't you? So. And
all your Christmas presents are sorted out now from all your man of the match awards.
I've got enough Prosecco for the rest of the year.
So finally then, so I won't keep you because I know you've got to get onto the back pictures for the warm-up later, but have you got any final messages for the fans or anything?
Just thank you for coming along so far. Really, it's like we've said, it's really, we do appreciate it. It does make a difference. I think as the games have gone on, more people have brought in, and I think it helps us in the changing room. And I think, as you mentioned, being part of in the clubhouse, it does help feel more as a club, and it helps on the pitch. Sort of those last-minute winners. It's a bit of a cliche, but it does make the difference.
Fine lines football, isn't it? So
yeah,
extra 1% here and
definitely,
there.
So yeah, sort of we really appreciate it, and we know so what you're giving up your Saturdays and your money to come and to watch. So it does mean a lot to us.
Yeah.
So,
And Swifty the same, is it? Or?
Yeah, for sure. Like Rich said, it's like we appreciate it. The more people that we can get, it's only going to help the team and help results. And we don't take it for granted that people, like Rich said, spending their Saturday, spending their money here to come and watch us. Obviously, hopefully, results will continue to improve as we get used to each other as the season goes on, and hopefully we can.
Because I know players and fans have different ideas of what aspirations should be for the season. If you ask the regular fan base here. It's been mentioned, we just need to be a step forward club and all that. But then we ask like Ross and Chris and Joe and Dano, and they say, oh, well, we're playoff ready. So aspirations are always different from fans and players. But they should be as well, shouldn't they?
You've got to be realistic. Like the league, it's the first time for Dereham in this league. We were talking off camera about the more local leagues around here, the Isthmian leagues. And they are sort of faster paced. We've played some teams that are right at the top of that league and beaten them. So maybe those leagues would suit us more. So it is a sort of transition period for the club to get used to almost a completely different style of football, isn't it? Really, but as the club, if the club does stay in this league for years to come, it will be in a better place because it gets used to it. And maybe this year you have to sort of consolidate, get used to how it is, and like transition across to playing in the style that this league is. But once, like, if you go on a run around Christmas and get a whole win after win after win for a month or so, especially with some winnable fixtures coming up, then you never know.
Never know.
We're not far off now, and after
if we've got winnable fixtures, that means the teams at the top are probably playing each other. So
exactly, and after a difficult start, to still be sort of in the hunt. And you've just got to stay there, haven't you?
So the final thing was we've got a question from one of our fans. It was written by a youngster, I think, so it must have been in crayon. It was from young Tom Park from Matchell. He says, "Can you have your autographs after the game?"
Of course.
If he's lucky.
Lovely, Ryan.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Richard, thanks very much for doing that.
Cheers.